Hello children, welcome to Science with Savi. I hope every one of you is doing amazing. Well, I have come up with the last part of the video of the topic which we started, and that is transportation from class 10, lesson number 6, life process. I have already uploaded the 4 videos of the same topic, and this is the last one. So in today's class, we are going to talk about transportation in plants. Yes, the way there is a circulatory system in animals which helps in transporting all the things throughout the body. In the same way, the plants also have a separate mechanism for this. So the entire video is dedicated to this topic. And children, please go to the link of the previous videos. It is there in the description box. Do watch it. The entire topic which is there in your textbook has been completed in these 5 videos. A little bit of detail I have taken, which is actually very important to keep your concept very clear. So do like it, share it, subscribe it for sure, and share it with more and more of your friends. So let's get to the class. Let's begin the class and understand how the transportation is taking place in plants. So I'm going to the classroom and we are going to start with the first slide. Like animals, the plants also need oxygen, minerals, water, organic compounds for their survival and sustaining the life process. And we know that plants undergo photosynthesis in which they prepare their own food. So the process of photosynthesis, they need a lot of raw materials, like they need carbon dioxide from the air, they need water and minerals from the soil, and then in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, the food is prepared. So whatever raw material which is needed by the plant has to be obtained by the roots from the soil. And after using these raw materials, that is after the process of photosynthesis, the food or the glucose which is formed in the leaf, it has to be carried to all other parts of the plant where it can be used up and also stored. It means that there should be a mechanism which allows the circulation of all these substances in plants, and this process is called transportation. If I talk about animals, we have the circulatory system, the cardiovascular system, where we have the blood which is taking and transporting all the materials throughout the body, and heart is the pumping organ. So in the same way, a mechanism is also there in case of plants, and this is what we are going to study in today's class. So you can take the definition of transportation, that it is the process that involves the movement of water and necessary nutrients to all parts of the plant which is needed for its survival. So with the next slide, we are going to know more about this topic. In plants, transporting materials through shorter distances occurs through the simple process of diffusion and osmosis. That is, water will enter into the roots through osmosis and the minerals will enter the roots through the diffusion. But if the distances are larger, then diffusion and osmosis won't be sufficient for the transportation of raw materials in the plant. That is, if the water and minerals have to reach up to the leaves for photosynthesis, this simple diffusion and osmosis would not serve the purpose. There should be another system which is needed so that the transporting this material becomes easy to higher distances. So in order to transport water and minerals and other substances in the plant up to a higher distance, there are specialized conducting tissues in the plants. Now comes the real part, you have to focus a lot now. If you go back to your class 9 knowledge of science, you must be remembering that you studied about meristematic and permanent tissues, and the permanent tissues again were of 2 types, simple permanent and the complex permanent tissues. So 2 such complex permanent tissues, or we can call as a conducting tissues, are involved, and they play a very important role in transporting substances in plants up to a longer distance, and these 2 specialized conducting tissues are xylem and phloem. They are xylem and phloem, and the process of transporting the substances to a longer distance in plant is called as translocation. So now we will be studying about xylem and phloem, and how the xylem and phloem, what are their functions and how they help in transport. Xylem and phloem are a group of special cells which form the vascular tissue or the conducting tissue that transport the water and nutrients to all parts of the plant. So 2 types of vascular tissues are the xylem and phloem. Now let's see what are their functions. The xylem transports water and minerals obtained from the soil. So the plant prepares its own food by the photosynthesis. We know it very well. For that, the plant needs water and minerals from the soil. So the water and minerals which have been obtained from the soil, absorbed by the roots, is transported to the leaves through the xylem, okay, through the tissue xylem. And by using these raw materials in the leaf, the food is prepared. So the prepared food from the leaves are transported to all parts of the plant where it is used up and stored, and this is done by the phloem. So get it very, very clear that xylem transports water and minerals from the soil to the leaves, and the phloem transports the food or the carbohydrate or glucose which is formed in the leaves from the leaves to all other parts of the plant. So like the circulatory system in human beings, where the blood vessels move around and they are scattered all over our body and they are helping in transporting the things in the medium blood, in the same way the xylem and phloem tissue, they extend throughout the plant, okay, they form a column and they reach up to every part of the plant and they help in transporting the minerals, waters and the prepared food. So they are like branches and they branch even further into the leaves like the spider webs. Okay, so this is a special mechanism in the plants which help in transportation. As xylem is a complex permanent tissue, that is, it is made up of different types of cells. So the different types of cells which are present in the xylem, they are the tracheids, they are the vessels, the xylem parenchyma and the xylem fibers. Now out of all these four, these are the vessels and the tracheids which form, they are connected together in a form of a continuous column or a continuous chain, and they extend from the root up to the leaves. And through these tracheids and vessels, the water and mineral which has been absorbed from the soil by the roots, they travel through these column and then they reach up to the leaves. Now again, the question is that how this, the transport takes place, how the water and minerals are pumped over this column of the xylem tissue through the cell, through the vessels and tracheids, and how they reach the leaves. So this is again a very interesting mechanism which we are going to see in the further slides. Now let's see how this water is transported through the xylem. So we will discuss this topic under two headings. The first is absorption of water. The soil has water in it and the plant absorbs this water through the roots. The roots have minute hair-like structures which are called the root hairs, and these root hairs absorb the water from the soil, and this is carried out by the process of osmosis. Now understand this phenomena properly. I'm explaining it, okay? The soil has a larger water concentration, it has a higher water concentration and a lesser concentration of salt as compared to the root hairs. The root hair has lesser water concentration and higher salt concentration. So the soil outside is hypotonic and the root hair inside is hypertonic. So the water moves from the soil, that is from a region of higher concentration, to inside the root hairs, which is a region of lower concentration. So in this way, the root hair absorbs the water from the surrounding soil, and then the water enters the root hairs, it enters the root and it reaches the xylem tissue which is present in the root. So the water from the soil have been absorbed and it has reached the xylem tissues which are present in the root. This is the first step, that is the absorption of water. Once the water has been absorbed by the root hairs, the water reaches the xylem tissues which are present in the roots. Now this water has to move upward towards the leaves through the vessels and tracheids of the xylem tissue. Now this upward movement cannot be brought about by simple osmosis because it has to travel longer distances. So there is another mechanism which comes into play when the upward movement is concerned, and this is the ascent of sap. Now ascent of sap, there are two factors which bring about the ascent of sap, that is the upward movement of water from the soil to the leaves. The first factor is the root pressure. Now understand this very, very carefully. When the absorption of water takes place from the root and continuously the root is absorbing the water, and at the same time there is no or almost very less transpiration going on. If you go back to your concepts, transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor by the plant. The excess of water is lost up. So in the case when there is either no transpiration it happens at night, or if there is very less transpiration going on and continuously water is absorbed by the roots, then in this situation a root pressure is developed, and this pressure acts as a pump and is pushes the water upward through the xylem tissues to the leaves. So this one factor also is very important, that is root pressure. But this root pressure is not sufficient and not enough to move the water upward in taller plants. It can move only in up to a shorter distance. And the effect of root pressure is more important and is more predominant at night when the transpiration is not going on. At night when the stomata is closed, there is no transpiration, and then root pressure is important in moving the water upward. But in the daytime, when the water is being absorbed by the root, and at the same time during the day when the transpiration is going on, then the root pressure is not sufficient enough. So there should be something else, okay, something more stronger than the root pressure, which helps in the ascent of sap. So we'll come to this in the next slide. We know that the xylem vessels, they form a column and it extends from the root up to the leaf. So there is a channel or a column which is formed by the xylem vessels, okay. And what happens when there is a continuous transpiration going on? Transpiration is a loss of water in the form of water vapor through the stomata of the which are present in the leaves. So because of continuous transpiration, a suction or a pull is created in the xylem column. This transpiration pull can move the water upward to more height, and especially during the daytime when the stomata are open and continuous transpiration is going on, this transpirational pull becomes the major driving force in the movement of water in the xylem column. And at night when the stomatas are closed and there is no transpiration going on, at that time the root pressure becomes the most important driving force for moving the water upward. But again, as we know that root pressure is not sufficient enough, not that strong to move the water up to a longer distance. It is the transpirational pull which plays a very important role in the ascent of sap. And one thing we need to remember, that in the movement of water and in the minerals and the xylem, the movement is always unidirectional. That is, the movement is always upward from the roots to the leaves. So in this way, the water is transported from the roots to the leaves by the xylem column. And in the same way, the minerals are also transported through the xylem tissue. The root here absorbs the minerals from the soil either by diffusion, that is a passive mode of transport, or by active transport by the expenditure of energy. The minerals which are absorbed, they will be transported along with the water through the xylem column. In this way, through the xylem tissue, the water and minerals which have been absorbed by the roots reaches the leaves. In the leaves, these raw materials are used up to undergo photosynthesis, and the food, that is glucose or the carbohydrate, is produced. Now this food which has been produced in the leaves has to be transported to all other parts of the plant where it will be used up, and also the food will be stored. So now we will come to the next vascular tissue, the next conducting tissue, which is phloem. So we remember that xylem helps in the transport of water and minerals from the roots to the leaves, and from the leaves the food which has been prepared is transported through the phloem tissue to all parts of the plant. So now let's see about phloem. Like xylem, phloem is another compound permanent tissue. It is also made up of different type of cells like the sieve tube, the sieve cells, the companion cells, the phloem fiber, and the phloem parenchyma. Now the sieve tube and the sieve cells of the phloem, they make channels, and they also make a column of network like the xylem which moves from the leaves to all parts of the plant. And this phloem is responsible for the translocation of nutrients and sugars like carbohydrates which are produced in the leaves by photosynthesis to all parts of the plant where this food and carbohydrate is either used up or they are stored. When we are studying the movement of food by the phloem, there is very important thing which you need to remember, that is the movement is
multidirectional in case of phloem. In xylem, we saw that the movement is always upward, that is in one direction. The movement of water and minerals is unidirectional. It takes place from the roots to the leaves. But the movement through the phloem is multidirectional. That is, the food from the leaves has to move upward to the higher parts of the plant, and also it has to move up to the roots. The food from the leaves will also reach the roots. So the movement is in all the directions, unlike xylem. To explain the movement of food by the phloem, there is a hypothesis which is called the mass flow hypothesis. Not too much detail is required for you right now. I'll simply try to explain you that this theory says that the movement of sugar or movement of formed food in the leaves by the phloem is brought about by a continuous flow of water and dissolved sugars between the source and the sink. So source is the site of production of sugar, that is the leaves where the sugars or the food is produced, and sink is the place where it will be utilized. So there is a difference or a gradient in the osmotic pressure which plays a very important role in moving the food or the formed sugar from the leaves to different parts of the plant. I'm not going into much detail of it. You just need to remember this movement happens in bulk. So it is a mass flow. That is, in the bulk the movement takes place and the movement is multidirectional.
I hope you got the topic very, very clear. I have started, preparing the videos in a different way. I have started making slides because I really want that from the videos, not just get the concept, but you also get the notes from here. So do take advantage, do take benefit from this new way which I have started uploading my videos, and also give me a feedback that how do you like this new way of teaching. See you soon with a very new topic from class 10 science. So I'll be back again. Till that time, keep learning and keep exploring. Bye bye.